Good afternoon. Uh, Last few sharings, I've been having fun. I've been just kind of a little bit autobiographical, uh, a little bit offering up suggestions based on my experience, 40, 50, closer to 60-year meditation practice, I guess 60 plus, and just offering tell the story about how I came full circle. I started off enjoying as a youngster. It was fun. I even made a group of friends, and we used to sit and chant Om and burn candles and burn incense, and lots of fun. And we found other groups too, other small kind of interesting groups. I remember we found a UFO group, and they meditated, but at their meditation they contacted UFOs. And I remember going to the graveyards in the middle of the night. This is in high school. Good stuff. Going out to graveyards in the middle of the night, and Vasu, I can still remember Vasu was sending love to the spacecraft. And other than that, it was a pretty traditional group, except for that UFO context, which made it fun. But anyway, meditation was fun. It was in a group of like-minded souls. Uh, we didn't really worry about any protocols or any procedures or even much discipline. We just sat, enjoyed, and let come what come. And then I went through rigorous Zen training. Sit straight, don't move. Anyway, that wasn't for me. But I endured it for so long because I was in the search of that elusive clarity. Still the mind, quiet the mind, shut up the mind, stop the mind, and clarity will be your reward. That was my understanding anyway, but it wasn't until I gave up. There's something about that process of giving up. The greatest giving up story that I know is Buddha when he tried everything. I mean, he was literally down to eat a grain of rice a day. With the aesthetics, he tortured the body. If I thought my meditation practice was rigorous, it was nothing compared to how they would sit, maybe put their arm up for a day, or all kinds of stretching the limits of human endurance, all in the name of awakening. And eventually he just said, I give up. And then he was led to a riverbank, was under the Bodhi tree, and he was gifted with his awakening. It was only through giving up. Much as I understood, finally got to understand clarity upon giving up on my rigorous Zen training. But one thing that came from my training that I'm eternally grateful for, and it may be my most significant or obvious characteristic, and that's equanimity. To be on an even keel. To first of all, it's based on understanding that all things change. So you greet happy times and sad times and testing times and lazy times and spurts of growth times, busy times. You meet it with the same frame of reference, the same state of mind. So it really makes no difference what happens, because you receive it in the same manner. Equality, equanimity, to continue your presence in the same condition, your internal presence in the same condition, no matter the external conditions, because it's come from an understanding of the fleetingness, the quick, the rapid change that is the only constant in life. All things come and go, all things change. So to look for a harbor in the storm, a safe haven, and that's the equanimity. You can't control the conditions surrounding you. You can't control what happens to you, but you can choose to be a victim, a participant, or a witness. And the beauty of witnessing is that you're able to be consistent, to keep a stable state of consciousness. It was worth the 33 years of rigorous training, although it took me until I gave up in the search of clarity. It only then dawned on me what I had received. Isn't it a human nature? We're so easy to see what we don't have that we sometimes miss the most important of what we do have. So I've been at this YouTube sharing 33 minutes, and I aim for 33 minutes and 33 seconds. And sometimes I'm there and sometimes I'm not. But I love that word 33. Yesterday I noticed that my teaching was only 32. 32, 33, 32, 34. But anyway, for some reason I try to stick to that format. So I'm in the spirit of the number 3. My end game is 33 minute and 33 second sharings. And that leaves me about 50 or 60 to go. And then it'll be time to consider what's next. Perhaps shortening my format. Shorter sharings. I don't know. But I do know that since January of 2018, I've been on this path. It took me, if you go look at the early videos, I don't know when, I have to go back and look and see when I really got to me that was aiming for 33 minutes. Because that wasn't my intent from the beginning. This is something that grew as I grew. Grew as I grew. So I was talking about 2 questions that novices, people just on the path, maybe the people have been there for a while, is how to meditate. And my answer was simple. Sit quietly and witness. Watch as if you're watching a movie. Never mind the monkey mind and the chatter. There'll come a time when the chatter is a never ending. But you don't have to pay any attention to it. You can kind of move it from the foreground to the background, if you will. And that leaves room for a deeper thinking. And all my efforts to quiet, to not think, to still the mind, were in many ways, I think, self-defeating. Number 1, I couldn't do it and it was discouraging. And number 2, that mind is plugged in. that mind is in a meditative state too. And from it can spring either new information, new ways to frame the questions, new answers to these questions for consideration. So I spent a lot of time attempting to quiet my mind. Quiet, still, and silent. And it makes me laugh now, but I have to remember the beauty of this as I came away from this discipline, this attempt with the gift of equanimity. So I talked about meditation. Meditation to me now is a relaxed state. I know that you're supposed to keep your spine straight, but I have a bent spine. And even now, straightening that, I just feel tension in my shoulders. So now I just go to my natural state, which let the shoulders kind of relax, kind of fall where they want to be. Sit in my favorite chair. Develop a ritual. Now I like music. My teacher encouraged us not to listen to music, to close all the windows, not to meditate outside. Because he's Chinese, he's Taiwanese, and he's speaking to the Taiwanese, and the Taiwanese have a lot of superstition about outside, and they have an inordinate concern for ghosts and spirits. And he also said, don't keep pets, because sometimes pets harbor these same spirits. Well, I've always been gifted with knowing and feeling that spirits, ghosts, entities were always around me. And it never had an element of fear. And that's what my teacher was trying to help, because the superstition of long-standing here is that ghosts are something to be feared. And it's that old, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. But anyway, from the very beginning of my studies with them, with my teacher, I made it quite clear that I had my own ways. I was there because I admired. I was there because I wanted to watch. I wanted to learn the deeper lessons that can only be conveyed from a master to the student through non-verbal means. This can happen in this physical presence or not. Physical presence isn't necessary, but it's good to have time when you do have that physical presence. So this is the answer to the second question. Have a teacher or not? And for me, most of my life was or not. Until in my 60s, I found a teacher. Or he found me. So that was that adage, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Now, I'm gifted with the awareness that this is the last physical incarnation that I'm karmically bound to. I've released my karma. I've settled my karma. That which I couldn't settle or release, I trusted to the violet consuming flame, much as a traditional fire. This violet consuming flame will burn your karma beyond ashes. That stubborn remnants that you don't fully understand. And I would suggest that you make a daily practice of visualizing this violet consuming flame and surrendering up your karma. Now I have to caution you about karma because my teacher would lift the karma of the whole thousands of people at a time. 2,000 to 3,000 would be sitting. He could lift, he could absorb, he could take on the karma of the group because he knew how to dispose of it. He could take on the karma of the group, he could lift the karma. But it was amusing to me, and I say amusing because we're all funny, starting with me. Good to laugh at yourself, but people are really funny creatures. And as soon as they left the confines of the meditation hall, they picked up their cell phone. And I could see, just in that simple act of turning on the cell phone, I could see that all the karma came rushing back. And by the time they got to their car or their scooter, which is a very popular means of transportation here because it's easy to park, many of my brothers and sisters, the CJs and Shishongs, would ride scooters because it's easier to park. And there was thousands of us congregating on a relatively crowded part of Taipei City without the addition of couple thousand practitioners, followers of our Shifu. But they couldn't wait. As we left the stairwell, most people, we were told to not plug into the cell phone until we got out, but people couldn't wait. They detoxing. They went away from this. God knows how much important crap is on that phone. How many critical messages. How many opportunities to play their little games. The computer games. But for whatever the reason, the karma came back. And I realized that 99.9% people hold on to the karma for dear life because that karma defines them. And they need it. So it's a more advanced practice to begin to really shed, to deal with karma, both through the help of a master, but mostly through the help of the violet consuming flame, and your own process of balancing, of dealing with karma, accumulated karma, whenever possible. So, in my own, I talked about maturity, maturing into Buddhahood. Talked about how each year after awakening, I found to be the equivalent of 6 chronological years. You start out as an infant. Upon awakening, I found myself an infant on a dirty, cold sidewalk, totally alone, naked. And each year that passed, so 1 year later I became a 6-year-old, then a 12-year-old, then an 18-year-old. 8 or 9 years. I'm 48 to 54 Buddha years now. But this maturity takes time. And as I mentioned before, our work is never complete. There's more realms. There's more dimensions. There's more levels. So it's not like you reach something and at the end of it's a never-ending journey. There's always another step, another stepping stone. And I find solace in that. It seemed counterintuitive that it just ends. I'm a Buddha now and that's it. So this is leading up long-winded as always. But it's good because I touched on a subject that this karma, accumulated karma. Anyway, I was gifted with the knowledge that karmically I didn't have to incarnate again in this physical body, in this physical world, that I was free to pursue. But Buddha asks us that we help in the process of assisting all sentient beings to come to their natural state, their own Buddhahood, to awaken, to remember all that they were forgotten, to discard the karma, to deal with the dualism, the Maya dualism, elusive dualism, and embrace non-duality, the oneness, the unity. And we're asked to choose. It's our free will. We can choose to go on because maybe you feel pulled to another realm where this work that you need to do, that you're suited to do, that you're trained to do. But my choice was to keep incarnated as long as I was able to help even a single solitary soul. And we do this by example. We do this by sharing. We do this by loving. We do this by teaching. And these videos weren't begun until I had reached the point where I thought that I could help. And this is the avenue that was available to me, and I've certainly tried to make the most of it. Now, I would like to have the opportunity to meet in person, to teach, to lead a meditation group, no matter how small. I'd love to have a meeting hall, a meditation hall. I'm ready, able, and willing. So when I said when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and today is when the teacher is ready, the students appear. So I'm totally at peace doing with what I'm doing. And whether it's this life or another life, the universe will provide me with a space, will provide me with enough charisma to attract students, not followers. I don't want to be followed. I don't want to be a leader. I just want to be a director. Go this with this, this, if you do this and this, I want to point it out. And really, this is all that a guru, sifu, roshi, master is meant to do, that he or she can do, is first of all, be a living example. That's a critical, be a living example of the teachings. Keep it simple. Like meditation practice. Keep it simple. The answers, the practices is in the realms of mundane. Learning to be absorbed with any task at hand. Learning to let go of past and future. Concepts of past and future, because there is no such thing. And I've mentioned that after all these years, it's finally living in the moment, being absorbed in the moment. It is culminating, it's crystallizing. So platitudes can become probabilities, and probabilities, inherent in the probability is a certainty. And that certainty, the certainty when you progress or pass from non-abiding, impermanent, non-permanent, awakened state to abiding, to permanent, to eternal awakening, you're certain. And especially become, maybe it's a work in progress, maybe you're not immediately certain, but as you mature into your Buddhahood, if indeed you have awakened, if indeed you do remember all that you had forgotten when you came to this plane, the oneness, the wholeness, the cosmic song, you develop a certainty. I was certain, but it just took me a while to be certain that I was certain. And it comes when you need no outside validation. You don't have to ask anybody, did this or that happen? So now I'm a teacher in search of his venue. And I feel really relieved to know that it's not like starting a business. The onus is not on me. I don't have to go find the space. I don't have to look for the employees. I don't have to do anything that except be who I am. The universe provides. We live in a world of unlimited, unrestricted resources, possibilities. So all I can do is watch. When will my opportunity come? Or will indeed it come before my life is, before I leave my physical body? I'll come back again. And I don't care if I come back as a stable. I don't care if I have to clean the stables. I don't care if I have to sweep the streets. I don't care. I don't need to be in any elevated state other than internal. My next lifetime, I'll be born awake. I'll be aware that I'm awake, so that what I have to do in the world, whether it's to have thousands of followers like my teacher has, or whether it's to have a handful like followed Buddha around, whether it's in an elaborate, beautiful facility or ramshackle hut or under the stars, whether it's just me, it all matters not.